Hello once again, everybody. Last tutorial we have covered adding, we've actually covered everything about the database up until adding users and querying users vaguely. Now we're going to get into how to update users. So say we've had, for example, a user Jack that we were using in the last tutorial, and we want to update. We found Jack, right? Now we can do jack.name. This was a very straight dive in, by the way. Let's just do jack.name. Let's say he changed his name. Now his new name is, let's say, Bob Freeman. Okay. Previously it was Jack Freeman. Now it's going to be Bob Freeman. How do we save this into the database now? Very easy, actually. Database session commit just does it. And that's all you need to do. Officially, Jack is renamed to Bob Freeman. Okay. Let's go ahead. We've run that application by saving this. It was already running in the background. So when we want to now, okay, but for anybody who might be coming to this tutorial for the first time from previous tutorials, let me just go ahead and run through that actually. We have a Flask application that's running right now over here, so I'm running that, and every time I save here, it's gonna automatically update this because I'm running it as a debug. And we have the preview of the home page here, which really just has it works in its index HTML file. And that's basically our setup. Okay, now that that's through, we can proceed again. So we did jack.name Bob Freeman, and we made officially the first user name Bob Freeman. We can check this out again by doing user query first and just seeing print jack.name, and it should print Bob Freeman rather than Jack Freeman. You can see it says Bob Freeman here, and previously it was saying the user Jack Freeman. Now it's just Bob Freeman because we're doing jack.name, but if we refresh, it'll say the user Bob Freeman, right? Because that's how we're representing the this object with a string. So to make a long story short, this is how we basically update, database rows. So what if we wanted to update a bunch of them, right? Again, if we had, for example, by the way, in order to get all the users, you should just do .all on the query. You don't need to filter by anything. Here you can put as much as you want. Filter by, .filter, and in the end you just do .all or .first basically, because until that point this is just a query, but eventually when you do first or all, it's going to return a list of objects or one object. If you do first, it'll return one object. If you do all, it'll return all the objects. Once you do this, by the way, you're going to get a list of Python objects. You can't go back to a query, at least easily, or maybe at all. I've never really tried, but you want to do this once you're sure that you're done with your querying, because things can be done much more effectively and efficiently in the database level compared to within Python. So for example, if you want to perform some operations to see, for example, if I have 100 users or 1,000 users, whatever, and I want to just see what their age adds up to, it would be much better for me to somehow perform that in the database than in Python, because Python is going to be much slower when it comes to doing operations. With that example particularly, maybe it doesn't matter as much, but with an example where you have 1 million users and every user is doing that 1,000,000 times operation, it's going to get very heavy. So we want to ideally avoid that, and we want to do as much as possible any of those calculations, funcs, vice versa, which we will get to in the future tutorials perhaps. I don't know if it would be in the scope of this course, but yeah, basically, long story short, we want to make sure that we do all the querying, and then we do the .all or .first after we've done all of that. Let me give an example. So for example, if we want to filter by all the users that are age 30, and we also want to filter by users that have the name Jack, okay, because there is a possibility that there's a bunch of them, right? This is a possibility. By the way, the filter by does accept commas, so you don't have to do this. You could just add a comma like this, age 30, comma, name Jack. This is fine. The same with filter. Filter is a bit different. Let me show how that could be useful. You could do user.age. So in this case, for example, we're talking about Jack, and we could actually do greater than 20. And this will return, or actually talking about Bob now, technically speaking. We'll just call this user, okay? We'll call it our user, because we changed its name. Now, it'll say, when we print our user, it'll say select ID, blah, 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 where age is greater than yada, yada. But like, you can see it's just returning the query because we didn't do .all. or dot first in this case, if we want to just get that one user. And when we do the dot first, you can see that that user is indeed Bob Freeman. Why is it Bob Freeman? Because Bob Freeman's age is 30. Normally we added him as a 30-year-old. But Bob Freeman changed the name to, from Jack to Bob. So what if we had a bunch of users? Some of them were aged between this or this. For example, age between 20 and age 20 to 40. So let's say greater than 20 but less than 40. We could add another filter here. So user.age is less than 40. And then dot first. This filter will just accept one thing. Or it could accept if you do and or vice versa. But I would recommend, this is a good syntax for starters and it will cover a lot of the use cases. The dot filter by, on the other hand, okay, its syntax, just to show you, let's do this full screen for a second. So this is how filter works. If we wanted our user equals user.query.filter by, okay, this will not need the user dots. This will not need the class name. So we'll just do age equals 20, for example. I don't think we're able to do greater than or equal to, greater than, less than, vice versa logic. Let's test it together. I don't think that's something, I don't really use filter by for that, for anything that's complex, other than just filtering by name, email, vice versa. So let's test that together actually. So let's just do ages greater than 20 and ages less than 40. Highly doubt that this is going to work, but let's give it a shot. As you can see, it says age is not defined. For this line, right? Yeah. So if we were to do age 20, I think this would work. You can see age 20. If we did age equals 30, it works. We've got our Bob Freeman, who's 30 years old. But if we did age greater than 30, it says age is not defined. So basically, it's expecting this filter by to be, equaling something. Not greater than, not less than. If you want to get into the greater than, less than stuff, you're going to need to use this filter. So that's a little bit advanced querying. There's much more advanced querying. But for now, this is basically a little more advanced than just the filter by, which allows us to just filter by stuff that equals specifically something. So in this case, 30, or where the email equals specifically something, or vice versa. Okay, so we've thus far edited. So our user, we can again go over that. If you want to edit our user.age equals 50, this will edit it, and then we'll need to save it to the database with database session commit. So now when we do this and we run our application, automatically he's saying that the none type doesn't have a because I think that we need to do less than 70. I think that may have run once. Let's see. And it looks like that did it actually. So now when we print our user.age, you can see that it's age 50. If we were to do this 70 now, next time it becomes 70, because it runs this code every time. It finds this user and then it updates its age and then it saves it to the database. So this is basically how we update information from the database. It's a very simple, straightforward, and we also dived a little bit into a little bit more advanced querying. In the next one, we're going to go over how to delete users from the database, or objects from the database rather, tables, rows, vice versa from the database. So stay tuned for that.